Hello, and welcome to another episode of Critical Wave Theory. And this time we're going to be looking at music again. And this episode is specifically about some of the most legendary band reunions and comeback albums. Now, there are a few instances here where, I'm not the hugest fan of the band being mentioned, but, this isn't about me and whether I love the band or not. You know how it is. Sometimes a band breaks up, members go their separate ways, and you think it's over. But then, against all odds, they get back together and deliver something that people consider incredible. So let's look at some of the most notable moments. So the first entry for this is "Hell Freezes Over" by the Eagles. That's often considered a classic moment in rock history. The Eagles once famously said they'd reunite when hell freezes over. Well, guess what? In 1994, hell must have been ice cold because they came back together and dropped the album Hell Freezes Over. The album featured a mix of live performances and four new studio tracks, debuting at number one and selling millions. So that was, defying expectations. In fact, defying the band's own publicly stated expectations. And it was one of the biggest musical comebacks of all time, really. All right, entry number two, The Dance by Fleetwood Mac. So, much like with the Eagles, not everyone's a Fleetwood Mac fan, but, people were happy when they reunited. Well, at least a lot of people were. Fleetwood Mac is no stranger to breakups and reunions. After years of turbulence, they came back in 1997 with The Dance. It's a live album featuring their greatest hits and a few new tracks. It soared to number one and proved that Fleetwood Mac was still a force to be reckoned with. I just realized that the soared to number one might have been better off suited for the Eagles entry, but whatever, that's not how I was thinking at the time. All right, so entry number three, Iron Maiden's Brave New World. So this one's for the heavy metal fans. I know most metalheads out there are fans of Iron Maiden. So this one's for you. In the 1990s, Iron Maiden lost lead singer Bruce Dickinson and guitarist Adrian Smith. But in 1999, they returned, and in 2000, Brave New World was unleashed. The album featured hits like The Wicker Man, was considered an instant classic, and proved that Iron Maiden's sound, their signature sound, was as powerful as ever for their fans. And, probably earned some new fans as well. All right. For entry number four, I've got Back in Black by AC/DC. And this is probably the entry that has the most swagger. You can say you're not a fan of AC/DC, but you have to admit that the new lead singer that they acquired when they returned had, confidence and swagger, and he had a dominant presence on the stage. I'm sure he still does too. So this isn't exactly a reunion, but it's impossible to leave out. After the tragic death of Bon Scott in 1980, AC/DC considered calling it quits. Instead, they brought in Brian Johnson and released Back in Black, and the rest is history. It was one of the best selling albums of all time and really made AC/DC one of those bands that everyone has heard of, and while you probably have heard some of their songs, especially the song Back in Black itself. Sometimes out of tragedy comes legendary rock and roll, and this is, one of those times. So, entry number five, Bon Jovi's Crush. So, Bon Jovi took a 5-year break before reuniting and releasing Crush in the year 2000. The album featured It's My Life, and it was a song that reintroduced them to a whole new generation of fans. They even tried to modernize their sound a little bit, at least through the production techniques. So whether you love them or not, that song is considered anthemic and it's still blasting from people's speakers today. And what I've said about John Bon Jovi in the past is still true. He's definitely one of the nicest rock musicians out there. He does good charitable work and stuff like that. He's got like a free soup kitchen where in order to pay for the food, you can offer your own services. You can donate food later on, or it's something like that anyway. The guy is, he's a charitable person. And for another example of, how good Bon Jovi is, he invited Triumph the Insult comic book, or the Insult comic book, Triumph the Insult comic dog to one of his concerts to insult the band as part of the show. And that shows that John Bon Jovi has a great sense of humor. So I I unintentionally said something really goofy there. I said Triumph the Insult comic book. I don't know what I must have been thinking about comic books at the time, so but I meant comic book dog. Um well, whatever. That was a weird little mistake that I made, but I'm a professional over here. A professional what? I'm not sure, but we're working on it. And entry number 6, Indie Cindy by the Pixies, or Pixies. Sometimes people add a the to it, other times it's just Pixies. But the Pixies disbanded in 1993 and reunited in 2004. A decade later, in 2014, they released Indie Cindy. While the album got mixed reviews, commercially it was a success. It shows that sometimes the hype of a long awaited return is enough to get people listening. And, Pixies are a classic rock band for sure. Their songs are instantly recognizable. They've got some classic tunes, really. Entry number 7, 13 by Black Sabbath. Now, Black Sabbath's 2013 album 13 marked the return of Ozzy Osbourne on vocals for the first time since 1978. The album hit number 1 in multiple countries, proving that even after decades apart, the godfathers of metal still had it. And you know what? I was surprised. 13 was actually a pretty solid album. I've heard some people complain that um it's not mixed the best or something. I've heard that. Like there's too much compression on it or whatever. That's something that I've heard, but to me the album sounds good. I would have, I I would have maybe done a few different things with it. You would have maybe done a few different things with it production wise, but it's still a solid album from a solid band, and it's it's worth it to hear the bonus tracks too. So when I bought this on CD, I got the second disc and some pretty solid tracks on that second disc. It was kind of worth it. So that about does it for my list. I've got 7 different instances of reunions and comebacks. So if you've got any more comebacks and reunions that you'd like me to know about or do an episode about, feel free to let me know. Maybe I'll eventually do it. There are so many more incredible band reunions we could talk about, like the Smashing Pumpkins reuniting, though without some of the original members. I will say about that one, it probably seemed to a lot of people like just Billy Corgan playing Smashing Pumpkins songs with a new band, and there's even, I mean, at one point there was a Velvet Underground reunion that happened in the 1990s. I think they did a few shows then, and I never heard, the recordings or the maybe they did some, live videos or whatever at the time. I'm not sure, but that'd be interesting to hear because you always hear that, oh, they broke up in the 70s, but I did some research and apparently they did reunite briefly for like anniversary shows or something like that, and that's interesting. So, I'd like to know which comeback album or reunion tour is your favorite. You can let me know. If there's a comment section, you can do that there. Or I suppose if you want to stalk me on social media. Although when people do that, they often say stupid stuff. So, you know, try to not be a dick if you're going to do that. You know what I mean? So, thanks for tuning in to Critical Weight Theory. Don't forget to subscribe, and you can check out my other episodes, or check out future ones. And sometimes I talk about this, I talk about that, and occasionally it's music history. Sometimes it'll be about movies or TV shows. Of course, I also do political episodes, maybe some self help kind of stuff. So, oh yeah, I suppose I might as well add a nice rock on to this because I am still a rock fan. It's still my favorite genre of all the genres of music, although over the years I've come to appreciate many different forms of music. And, you know, I sometimes do episodes on non rock stuff as well. So, anyway, have a good day.